Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the end of the walkout by Texas state Democrats that they initiated to prevent the Republicans from re-gerrymandering Texas state maps so as to produce 5 more seats in the House of Representatives. So it looks as if that's come to an end, though there's some still discord among the Democrats. I'll get to that shortly, but it appears quite likely that the Republicans will now go forward with this plan, which has been pushed by Trump and has a sort of overall game plan of maybe then going to other states and doing more of the same. Okay, so just a quick review. Texas, with Trump's exhortations, decided to do this. They were targeting a pocket of Hispanic votes, which you may recall went to surprisingly to a greater degree in the last election to Trump and the Republicans. Nevertheless, a very unusual thing, and feels like a dirty pool that they're doing it in the middle of the 10-year census cycle. Typically what happens, there's a census, then the states redistrict, and then that map is what's used for the following 10 years. Texas is being quite aggressive in trying to do it in the middle of the cycle. And, 5 votes. This translates to 5 members of the House of Representatives, and we're talking about the razor-thin margins we currently have, and Republicans looking at a likely loss coming in 2026, trying to blunt or even prevent that. So it's a national issue that is completely central to the prospects for both parties in 2026. So they move to do this, and the Dems do really the kind of only move they had with the way the majority is sort of just bulldozing over them in Texas. They leave, they saddle up and go to Illinois, where they're welcomed by Illinois Governor Pritzker and others. And that blunted the effort by the Republicans because it prevented there being a quorum of members, and you can't do business without a quorum. So we had this big 2-week, high-profile, kind of dramatic, lots of flailing by Texas Republicans to try to force them back, it was really feckless, and the Dems both, I think, made their point and were kind of, at least in some quarters, heroes for this unusual and kind of ingenious assertion of some minority rights. They're coming back now because California has gotten in on the act, and the contingent for their returning is that Gavin Newsom and California is going to rejigger their own map to produce 5 more Democratic seats, or at least that is the goal and the expectation. So in a sense, it's a very good example of, tit for tat, and the kind of trend within Democrats of saying, we can't just keep playing by the rules if the R's continue to play fast and loose or even dirty. Now, what it means to play dirty in gerrymandering is the whole process is kind of funky. In the perfect world, independent commissions not driven by politics would draw the lines in the state, and the Supreme Court could get involved if it was really a raw deal politically that prevented minorities from participating. But Republicans in particular have eschewed any kind of independent commission. They have a few, but not very many. And the Supreme Court has said, we're not going to get involved in gerrymandering because we just can't get our hands around it. There are no judicially manageable standards. So basically, it's left to the political process, unless race is involved in a way that really has a disproportionate effect. And even that principle looks like it may be on the chopping block. So it's just the Wild West, out there. And that matters. It's because, the Texas Dems have come back, and I think as of this week, the Republicans are going to try to do their new map, and California will follow suit. But if we continue in sort of a race to the bottom, if you look ahead, the numbers for the Dems it doesn't look like they can match them all the way down if somehow this becomes the new normal. And in 2025, we have a whole run of gerrymandering of states across the country. There is unlikely to be the same number of states that are susceptible to this on the blue side. So we'll see how that goes. But that's one reason why there were voices and our voices in Texas saying, no, just don't come back. The special session that the governor had called to do this gerrymandering has passed, but they still have time to do it until the end of the year. And there's, some voices there saying, just keep staying away. So why are they coming back? Well, first and foremost, they can say that the national map won't be disrupted, or at least that the 5 votes that it looks like the Texas Republicans will garner in Texas will be matched by 5 votes in California. But, these are folks it's not easy to stay away for months, right? They're not getting paid. They have families. There are holidays, etc. And I think the notion is they were always going to try to come back. Now, others among them are saying, no, we should stay out until the end of the year. And there are a couple prominent voices who are saying, I don't care if California gets 5 more votes. Texas is getting 5 more. And by the way, it might endanger the current seats of, in particular, certain minority representatives. We care about what's happening in Texas. And the general point I've made that you can't keep going tit for tat indefinitely. So there continues to be a little bit of discord and minority sentiment among Texas Democrats. Not enough, it seems to me, to prevent the return of sufficient Democrats to enable a quorum and enable Texas to do what it will do. But the controversy of its doing it will remain, and it will particularly get over the top controversial if it gives birth this little Texas-California move to a whole spate of states doing the same, and particularly if that's able to give rise to a bunch, and even a small bunch matters in the current electoral dynamics of the House of Representatives, of new Republican seats. So the 2-week walkout, I think, what got a lot of attention and really cast a light on what Texas Republicans were doing. On the other hand, the Republicans now will get their way. California counterbalances, but what happens from there, and what's the sort of state within Texas of the Democratic delegation after these votes or these new districts are created, remains still pretty roiled. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.